The Margaret Pyke Trust's commitment to FP2020 is straightforward. We have committed to changing global environmental policy. Very unusually for an NGO with 50 years reproductive health expertise, we have observer status with both the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the UN Environment Assembly. We are the only member of IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, with 50 years family planning expertise. Now, this is important because it's enabling us to actually work from inside both the biodiversity and the climate sectors, promoting the importance of reproductive health and rights. There are literally hundreds of billions of dollars available for climate adaptation. If we do more work promoting the importance of removing barriers to family planning for the climate, it might enable us to gain just a tiny fraction of those hundreds of billions for our work. There is a huge geographical overlap between priority communities for us and areas where the environmental sector works. Now, last year in 2020, we had one of our biggest successes. IUCN passed our resolution with an absolute landslide of governments, NGOs, and Indigenous peoples' organisations. In 2021, and for the rest of the decade, we want to build on that. And FP 2020 has helped us in several ways on its way, and I'd like to thank them for that.
Globally, it's estimated that there are 130 million people who are in need of humanitarian aid, more than at any time since World War II. About a third of these people are women and girls of reproductive age, who may have little or no access to contraception. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, the needs are just growing. People face an increased risk for unintended pregnancy, unsafe abortion, and maternal mortality. Around the world, we're witnessing how restrictions on mobility have left people trapped with their abusers, leading to an alarming spike in gender-based violence. And not only is the need acute, but the demand for contraception in these settings is fierce. Across diverse contexts, 30 to 40% of women experiencing displacement did not want to become pregnant in the next 2 years. And despite all this, contraception still remains one of the most neglected and underfunded components of humanitarian response. Looking towards 2030, it's critical that we work together to ensure that all people affected by crisis have access to contraception and other essential sexual and reproductive health services. We need to build back more resilient and inclusive health systems that can withstand future pandemics, shocks, and future crises. We need to make sure that community-based groups and networks, especially women's groups, are at the table throughout preparedness planning and can be activated as soon as crises hit. COVID-19 should be a lesson to all countries that health is not an either-or equation. We need to better prepare for emergencies, but also continue to invest in health systems that meet people's needs throughout the life course.
I can't imagine the last several years of global health and particularly sexual reproductive health and rights programming without the work we've been privileged to do with FP 2020. It began in the midst of complicated activities. There was a trial seeking to explore whether a particular contraceptive method might actually be increasing the risk of HIV. That was not only an HIV issue, it was not only a contraceptive issue. It was an issue about women's health. It was an issue that brought FP 2020 and AVAC together in partnership with civil society groups around the world. Because at the end of the day, this is not about any one health issue. It is not about a technology. It's really about the individual. It's about the woman. And that's really what FP 2020 has done. It has helped bring a focus on keeping the individual at the center of this work. For 30 plus years in HIV, we've talked about integrating sexual and reproductive health and HIV programming. And there have not been that many success stories that we can talk about. But I'm delighted that as FP 2020 looks to its future, that our collaboration around the ECHO trial and around understanding one woman, one body, one set of issues, one set of needs and wants and desires really is a hallmark of the future work together. Congratulations to everybody involved in FP 2020. And really, more importantly, best of luck for the way forward. Although we've accomplished much, there is so much more to do and so much more to do together.